So I purchased the Idaho 4 book, An American Tragedy by James Patterson and Vicky Ward, and I'm working my way through it. I just received it today, so I got through the first author's note, and now there's a 1, 2, 3 for the prologue, and then it goes into the beginning of it. So I thought maybe I could review it for you guys as I read through it and kind of give you the synopsis of what's going on. Unless you want to buy it yourself, more power to you. So there's a part in the beginning portion of it, and I shredded it. I've taken notes, and I kind of want to point out some things that I noticed. So part 1 starts with Chief Fry's perspective of when he first heard the news. So he apparently gets a call from Captain Tyson Barrett, informing him of the homicides, and then they immediately say that Barrett has an inside track with Ava and Emily, who are 2 of the kids outside of the rental property of 1122, and that they work at a football stadium called Kibby Dome and under Barrett's purview, so he knows them well. Interesting that there's already a connection from the get-go. What do they mean by under his purview? Purview of what? Now they say Fry is 4.5 hours away in a 4-hour drive away in Wenatchee, Washington. And then he's driving back and he's with his wife, Julie Fry, who just conveniently is the county clerk. Now we knew that. I don't understand how that's possible for her to be the Latah County clerk when her husband is the chief. I feel like that would be a conflict of interest. Now it's curious that they say the residence is part of a large cluster of student housing right on the campus line. Key, on the campus line, meaning they're not on campus. They're on the border of it. So how does the school get the final say for the house to be torn down? Why was it given to them in the beginning anyway? Then they go in to say that Fry, it's not his first time with homicides. That in 2007, in just 1 year, that he had to deal with 3 different homicides in that year alone. Then one was a University of Idaho student, David Boss, who shot a former classmate. And then in 2011, there was that Ernesto Bustamante, who killed Katie Benoit. I guess they dated and he was obsessed with her and he killed her and then himself. Now they make the statement that Fry already knows that this one is different, but how would he know that and how so? And then already talking about how he'll need the help from the FBI and the state police, which I think is interesting that he's already talking about outside agencies coming in to assist. Then he asks the question, have you reached out to Bill, meaning Bill Thompson, the prosecutor in Latah? And they state that Bill Thompson has never lost a case, that the chief and the prosecutor have worked every crime scene together. I feel like that's convenient. All these people are interconnected. We've seen that with Kathy Mabbitt, the coroner. She's also a lawyer, and it's just too close for comfort. It also points out that, of course, Thompson's not going to want to lose a case when he's so close to retirement either. He wants to go out on a high, which is why I think he offered the plea deal. Because even though Brian supposedly asked for it, he could have said no. Then Fry asks about forensics and have they been notified, which is Lawrence Mowry and Andrew Fox. Now we saw Lawrence on the stand at one point and he was a complete mess. Both were Fry's appointments, it says, meaning he chose them and appointed them to their positions. Then he states that Idaho State Police needs to come and get involved, so interesting that they're already including them. Then Barrett tells him that Mitch Nunez, who's 22 years old and the youngest on the force, was the ones to find the 1122 victims. Then Fry says that he'll have to find Nunez and Nunez's wife in order to help them get resources to cope with the trauma of what Nunez had just seen. So I don't understand how his wife is involved. She didn't see anything. Then they mention that Paul Kowalski, who's a retired police officer, is Chief Fry's best friend. It's just too close for comfort, all these connections that they all have with each other. Then he proceeds to ask if the university has been notified, and it's interesting that now he's looping in them in this process. Then he asks where Brett Payne is, who's 32 years old and joined the force for Latah just 2 years prior. And he would be designated as a detective corporal when a lot of people were not being hired at that time due to the unrest in the US after the George Floyd situation. Tyson basically says yes, Brett was aware and on his way, and that he wouldn't be there until 4 p.m., but they don't state why he wouldn't be there until then and where he's coming from. Then he calls in Dr. Rand Walker, who's a local therapist, to talk to the officers and says that he will need to be on standby. Then Chief Gary Jenkins, the head of Washington State University Police in Pullman and former chief of Pullman PD, he phones him, and the chief asks Fry if he needs backup, and he says no because they want to keep it like top secret, and because when they've assisted them before in 2015 for catching a murderer, they knew who the murderer was, but in this instance they don't, so they're not going to include them. And that keeping information on a need-to-know basis to stop leaks that could jeopardize it. Yet there were still leaks in this case. Now Tyson Barrett tells Fry that a knife sheath was found at the scene. But from my understanding, it was Brett Payne who saw the sheath when he arrived hours later. So which is it? In the very last sentence of this part 1 of the prologue, I believe is what it's called, the beginning of it, it says, one good thing about being the police chief is that no one is likely to arrest him for speeding because he's trying to get there. Very weird statement to be making. Who cares about your speed? Like, do you get away with things a lot being the chief? And why was it that that's what he's worried about or thinking about? And how would people even know who he is to pull him over anyway? I doubt he's driving in a cruiser or a police vehicle. So those were my thoughts on the first and summarization of the first part 1 of 3 of the beginning of the book, and then it's going to go into chapter 1 after that. So I will keep posting my summaries of the book as I go. Encourage you to read it for yourself if you like, but if you like this format, make sure you give a like and a follow, and I'll be back.